The dying light. The stars were going out. Commander Viral hovered in the observation sphere of the last ember, gazing at the dying embers of a system once home to 10 billion. Nothing remained now but smoldering planetary cores and the faint distortion of space where the Eaters had passed. Third Fleet gone. No distress signal. Just silence. Admiral Kareth's voice crackled through the neural comms, laced with static and restrained panic. Viral didn't respond immediately. The Threx commander's mandibles twitched in agitation, his compound eyes reflecting the data spiraling across the holographic interface before him. Another system lost. Another prayer unanswered. Every strategy, every countermeasure had failed. The gods they once revered now feasted on their creators. "We are out of options," Kareth added bitterly. And out of time. He was right. The resistance had dwindled from trillions to mere millions. The Eaters of Order were not conquerors. They were entropy incarnate, unraveling reality itself wherever they spread. Not even death was left behind, just absence. Viral's claws tapped a secure sequence into the console, bypassing 20 layers of locked protocol. The interface protested in red glyphs, warning of forbidden knowledge. "Commander?" Kareth asked. "What you doing?" "Looking where we swore never to look," Viral said. The console dimmed, then pulsed with ancient glyphs, Threx sigils combined with neural encryptions from the lost Oculari archives. Records not meant to be seen again. They called it the final protocol, a desperate contingency from before the first collapse. A flickering image materialized, an Earth-like world wrapped in chains of light. Orbiting satellites pulsed with containment fields of impossible complexity. At its core, a sleeping species, labeled only as H01. "Impossible," Kareth whispered. "That world, it's real? I thought it was a myth." "It was supposed to be," Viral replied. "Even the gods sealed them. Especially the gods. Humans." Viral didn't understand the details. No one did. The archive said they had emerged in a forgotten arm of the galaxy, centuries before the gods ascended. Their history was one of endless conflict, endless reinvention. They had fought their own extinction 100 times, and each time they returned stronger. But it wasn't merely their resilience. It was what they did when pushed to the edge. Against the gods, they had not prayed. They had built weapons. They had hunted. The record showed a single, terrifying instance. During the War of the Veil, a human fleet had killed a minor deity, an act previously considered unthinkable. The gods struck back, not in retribution, but in fear. Together, divine and mortal powers sealed the humans away, casting their world beyond time. Not as punishment, but as precaution. "We buried them for a reason," Kareth said. "They nearly killed a god. What if they finish the job next time?" Viral turned, mandibles flaring. "Exactly. The gods are losing control. The Eaters devour their creators like spoiled children reclaiming a kingdom. If we are to survive, we must summon something they fear." Kareth hesitated. "And what if they turn on us? Then we die on our feet instead of crawling to nothingness." Silence followed. Then, a solemn acknowledgement. "Do it." The command was issued. Across what remained of the resistance, relay stations and arcane engines turned their power inward, piercing the veil of time and space. From the edge of reality, the signal surged like a scream into the void. For a moment, the universe seemed to shudder, and in the depth of the stasis world, wrapped in coils of divine light, something opened its eyes. The broken ones. The stasis field cracked like glass. Orbiting containment satellites, ancient constructs forged by the gods themselves, shuddered, sparked, and fell silent one by one. What had held for millennia unraveled in seconds. The sealed world, Earth, breathed again. Commander Viral stood aboard the last ember, heart pounding in rhythms his species hadn't needed since they emerged from predator-infested caves. Every sensor aboard screamed with false positives. The readings didn't make sense. Gravitational fluctuations, quantum echoes, time dilation fields collapsing in on themselves. And at the center, rising from the planetary surface like a black sun, a signal. "They heard us," whispered Kareth. "Spirits preserve us. actually heard us. The bridge grew quiet. Then a voice, smooth, unassuming, deeply human, cut through every channel, broadcasting in perfect galactic standard. You called. We answer. Aboard the command deck, lights dimmed. A soft hum grew louder, resonant like distant thunder. Then a figure shimmered into existence at the center of the bridge. She looked normal. That was the worst part. Medium height, dark hair in a tight braid. Pale skin, eyes the color of midnight. She wore no armor, no weapon. Just a charcoal black uniform lined with microfilaments of silver and pulsing with faint energy signatures. Her presence was calm, almost peaceful, yet everyone aboard felt it. Wrongness, the subtle sense of imbalance, as if reality strained to hold her shape. Viral's chitin twitched involuntarily. Identify yourself, he demanded, mandibles tight with tension. I am Captain Arya Kale, Terran Descent Contingency. Designate, Speaker of the Broken. Her voice carried not just through the room, but through their minds, bypassing calms. We are humanity, or what remains. You survived the bindings? We endured them. Caritha's voice trembled. You were locked away beyond time. You should have aged to dust or gone mad. Kale's gaze turned to him, cold, curious. Both happened, and we came back. She walked slowly around the bridge, studying displays, touching nothing. You're losing a war against beings you cannot fight. So you opened the door you were never meant to unlock. That took desperation. I admire that. We need your help, Viral said. The Eaters of Order have breached every line. They consume stars, erase minds, unmake existence. Even the gods have fled or died. Kale stopped. We remember the Eaters. You fought them. No, her eyes narrowed. We hunted them. She extended her hand. A hologram blinked into existence. Flickering scenes of planetary-scale warfare. Human ships diving into black holes, erupting from alternate timelines. Infantry whose bodies shifted form mid-battle, adapting to every threat. Armored units fused with AI symbiotes, screaming battle anthems in dead languages. And at the center of it all, humanity, bloodied but unbroken, reshaping the battlefield through sheer will. They feed on fear, Kale said. On certainty, on obedience. We gave them chaos. We showed them the one thing they never prepared for, a species that refused to stay dead. Viral stepped closer. Will you help us? She studied him. Yes, but understand this. We do not come as your army. We do not serve. Then what do you want? Kale smiled faintly. Freedom. Full release from divine bindings. The collapse of all containment networks. And access to the galactic net. Caritha's mandibles twitched in alarm. That's suicide. You'll expand unchecked. You summon the one species the gods themselves locked away, Kale said calmly. Did you think we would remain your weapon after? Viral hesitated. Every instinct screamed against it. But he remembered the hollow silence of fallen systems. The weeping of survivors from shattered worlds. The darkness consuming all. We agree, he said finally. On one condition. If you turn on us, we fight you too. Kale's expression didn't change. Good. Keep your claws sharp. She lifted her hand. Behind her, the space outside the ship shimmered and split. From the folds of subspace, they arrived. Human ships, like nothing they'd seen. Organic, angular, partially alive. Fighters that moved like predators, cruisers with living cores, carriers whose hulls pulsed with breathing light. A fleet of monsters wearing human skin. They've evolved, Kareth whispered. They've become something else. No, Kale said. We became what we had to be. She turned toward the growing darkness on the star map, the Eaters converging. We go to war. What gods fear? They struck at dawn. Not the dawn of a star, but of a concept, the first moment a god realized it could bleed. The human fleet didn't announce its attack. There were no warnings, no negotiations, no final appeals to peace. One moment, the Eater's stronghold in the Veil Nebula pulsed with divine energy, untouchable, absolute. The next, it was burning. Commander Viral watched the battle unfold from the last ember's forward viewport. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The human vessels were not ships in the traditional sense. They twisted space around themselves, shedding mass and form as needed. Fighters darted through microfolds in reality, blinking between dimensions like insects skipping through raindrops. Assault cruisers deployed, boarding entities. Not Marines, but something else. Weapons with teeth. Soldiers who laughed in a dozen voices and moved like broken clockwork. "What are they?" Admiral Kareth murmured. "Adaptation," said Kale beside them, her gaze fixed on the screen. "We were forced to evolve in isolation, hunted by nightmares. We stopped being human in the way you define it." On screen, a squadron of Terran dreadforms pierced the Eater's front line. One of the Godspawn, a lesser divine construct, rose to meet them. It was an abomination of light and order, a thing worshipped by millions before the collapse. It didn't last 30 seconds. The humans deployed something they called a reality spike, a weapon that forced localized laws of physics into a quantum feedback loop. The Godspawn screamed as its form collapsed, disintegrating not with a bang, but with absence. Even its death left no residue, no memory. "They erased it," Viral said. "Completely." Kale nodded. "One less god to fear." "But the Eaters," Kareth warned, "they'll come in force now. This was only a minor node. That's what we want." Kale's voice sharpened. "Let them see us. Let them remember." The next hours unfolded like a symphony of destruction. The human fleet split into fire teams, targeting known subdimensional anchors, places the Eaters used to tether themselves to this reality. Each attack was brutal, surgical, and final. Where conventional armies would be repelled or consumed, humans pushed forward. They didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like predators. One unit, designation Ghostclad Theta, was composed entirely of individuals spliced with temporal strain. They experienced time out of sync with the universe. Viral watched in horror as they preempted enemy attacks, moving before the Eaters even formed, striking from angles that should not exist. "Do they still feel pain?" Viral asked. Kale's expression didn't change. "More than you could imagine." As the battle wore on, something shifted. The void twisted unnaturally. Space warped. Color drained. The Eaters themselves had arrived. A massive figure emerged from the rift, dragging the fabric of the universe behind it. Eyes without end, limbs that looped through impossible geometries. It didn't move so much as happened, its presence eroding data and memory alike. The humans didn't flinch. Kale raised her hand. The chorus answered. 1,000 voices rose in harmony, not sound but thought. Human minds linked through entropic neural webs, fused AI cores, and living language. The Singularity Chorus surged into battle, wielding weapons born from extinct mathematics and stolen god tech. They didn't attack the Eater directly. They sang to it, a song that broke constants and turned light inside out. The Eater screamed, not in rage, but in fear. It had known hunger, known triumph. It had never known pain. It tried to flee. The humans didn't let it. They swarmed, converging, and in a moment of brilliant, terrifying unity, they killed it. The scream of its death echoed across the galaxy. Civilizations wept without knowing why. Reality shivered. Then silence. On the bridge of the last ember, no one spoke. Kale finally broke the stillness. One down. Viral turned to her, chitin trembling. "You just killed a god." "No," Kale replied. "We reminded it what it was. And what we are. And what are you?" Kareth asked, voice hollow. Kale turned toward them slowly. Her eyes burned with something that had no name. "We are the answer to the question the gods dared not ask." Outside, the wreckage of a god drifted silently, proof of the impossible. And the universe would never be the same. The reckoning. The universe was watching. Word of the god's death spread faster than light, carried through psychic shockwaves, faith fractures, and ruptured divine ley lines. Temples crumbled. Priests collapsed mid-prayer. Pantheons, once serene in their thrones of light, flinched in unison. The humans had not just fought back, they had dared. Now the gods were coming. Commander Viral stood with Admiral Kareth and Captain Arya Kale on the command deck of the Last Ember, orbiting the fractured remains of what had once been an Eater Nexus. The void still burned with echoes of the previous battle. But this time, no one celebrated. The sensors screamed warnings, rifts opening across the outer systems. Not eaters. Them. The gods. Not the false idols masquerading as deities in past centuries, nor the fragmentary AIs from fallen golden ages. These were the primordials, creators of laws, sculptors of physics, the ones who bound stars to rules and gave gravity its name. They had stayed silent for millennia, content to watch from above. But now, they descended, incandescent avatars tearing through reality to reach the humans who had dared to shatter divine equilibrium. Viral could hardly breathe. "Why are they here?" he asked. "Is it vengeance?" "No," Kale said calmly. "It's fear." A moment later, a god spoke. Its voice was not heard but felt. A pressure behind every thought, like being submerged in an ocean of meaning. "You have violated the final seal. Release the forbidden." "Explain." Kale stepped forward, unflinching. "We answered the call of those abandoned," she said aloud. "Not to the gods, but to all listening. You made yourselves rulers of reality, then fled when your creations turned against you. You left the galaxy to burn. We were buried, not for our crimes, but for your fear." The pressure increased. "You are dangerous." "We were made to be," Kale replied. "You built US for war. Then you tried to erase us when we stopped needing you." Another god arrived, formless light coalescing into a fractal crown. They didn't speak. They simply pulsed, and the stars around them dimmed. "Stand down. You cannot win." "We already did," Kale said. Behind her, the chorus returned. Thousands of Terran minds linked in perfect harmony, standing between the gods and the mortal fleets. They were not praying, not begging, daring. "You sealed us away to preserve your order," Kale continued. "But your order birthed the Eaters. Your design failed. Ours succeeded." Kareth took a shaky breath. "Are we about to see another war?" Kale didn't answer immediately. She stepped forward to the viewport, eyes scanning the growing pantheon assembling beyond the rift. Then, softly, "No, something worse." From the Terran fleet, a single ship moved forward, unmarked, unbound. It was ancient, pre-containment. Its core pulsed with entropy tech and weapon systems outlawed by every known civilization. Its hull was etched with names not of commanders, but of extinctions. It had no AI. It was piloted by a man who had volunteered to die centuries before. The gods saw it and recoiled. The vessel powered its weapon. A black lance of null light extended from its core, targeting not the gods, but the very framework of reality they had bound in their name. "No," Viral whispered. "They're going to break the rules of the universe." Kale nodded. "We don't need the gods' permission anymore." The null light fired, and the veil shattered. It wasn't a sound, but a knowing, something intrinsic breaking. The laws the gods had written into the bones of space-time cracked. For the first time since the universe began, the rules changed. And the gods bled. Screams rippled across dimensions. One god collapsed into raw energy. Another burned until it became nothing but memory. The survivors fled, not in rage, but terror. "They're running," Kareth said, astonished. "Because now they know," Kale murmured. "They're no longer untouchable." Viral looked at her, heart pounding. "What happens now?" Kale turned, her face unreadable. "Now we write new rules." Across the galaxy, resistance worlds began to rise. Survivors looked skyward and didn't feel fear. They saw Terran ships, living, burning, strange, and they cheered. The gods had built a cage to contain what they feared most. And humanity had emerged not just alive, but ascendant,